Welcome to the Mom Spectrum, where each week moms share their stories about motherhood, careers, and finding fulfillment. This show is to help moms feel more confident because there are a million right ways to be a mom. I am your host, Stephanie Schindler. Today we have Meghan Dicklin with us, and I'm super excited for her to share her story. We actually connected through LinkedIn almost a year ago now, which is kind of crazy that it's been a whole year, but that's kind of when this idea of the podcast first started for me, and she was really the first person actually that I asked to be interviewed for this. So I found her through a mompreneurs group, and I was looking up her business. I found her website through that, and I was just so fascinated. It is such a cool business. It's such a cool idea and so needed right now. So I just was really excited about it. And so we kind of connected through that. Yeah, so I'm really excited to talk today, and I will let Meghan start by introducing yourself and your family a little bit.
All right. Thanks, Stephanie. Yep. Very excited to be here. Right now our family is myself, my husband, and we have a 2.5-year-old named Bennett, and we've got another boy on the way in 6 weeks. So I am right in the thick of, baby making and all that fun stuff. And that's where our family is right now. And as Stephanie said, I run a business called Nesting Your Business. So I consult with working parents, mostly moms and entrepreneurs, in the very beginning stages when they need to set their business up to take a maternity leave. But more often than not, I end up working with women after they come back from leave, because we all shift a little bit when we change from working woman to working mother. And what does that look like? And sometimes our priorities change, our vision for our business changes, what we want to do. And sometimes it doesn't, and sometimes it's a mix. So it's like figuring out what that identity looks like. What are we really trying to do with our working life? And then designing our businesses to fit that ideal so that we can do the working mother thing.
I love that so much. And I think especially one of the reasons that resonated with me is, and I assume you face this with almost every client, is I thought I knew how it was going to be, right. And I thought I knew what I wanted. And so I took 6 weeks off, and then I went back to just 10 hours a week. And I thought That's so little, that's going to be fine. And it was so hard. And so I just realized oh my gosh, I had no idea. So I imagined that I was an employee. I wasn't even running a business.
Sure. Yes.
It's just such a cool thing. Tell us about your own mom journey and how that led into creating Nesting Your Business.
Sure. So, my mom journey, it's interesting. I feel like it starts way back before I ever even was a mom. I think, as far as my career went, I didn't have this I did. I was, in high school, I'm going to be a doctor. And I thought I was, that's what I was going to do. And then I realized I didn't really like science. So from there, I kind of just allowed, what kind of work I was going to do and what I was going to do to kind of unfold. But the one thing I always knew is that I wanted to be a mom. So, as I, went through business school and started out in finance in New York, I was always kind of looking at the working moms that were around me and, back in the early 2000s, what that looked like, what maternity leaves were available, how everyone was juggling things. And I just looked at it and said, this is not for me. I don't think I want to play this game. It looks really hard. So I think as early as 20, 21 years old, I kind of told myself, okay, I'm going to be in corporate world for about 10 years, and I'm going to start my own business before I have kids with whatever future partner I might have. Because I just, from that moment, made that decision that wasn't the journey I wanted. So it was actually, I was about 31. We were married, thinking about having kids, and I was still working in finance, but in advertising and in tech as well, and just realized, if I wanted to start my own business, maybe I should do it now. So I actually went ahead and made the leap to leave my corporate job before we had kids and start a consulting practice, knowing very little what it was going to look like, but I felt like that was the time to get started. So I quickly kind of discovered the online economy and everything that was going on there, and my background in operations and marketing and team management really led me to work as an OBM and a COO type role for a lot of high power executive coaches and a lot of online businesses that had grown very quickly, but generally from a kitchen table up to 6 and 7 figures. And then, I'm sure many of you know this story that the business wasn't very organized. It was, so I was kind of coming in to take it from what was a one-person operation into more of a sustainable enterprise. So I was doing that, and I did that for about a year and a half, and it was working well. But then we got pregnant, and then so the idea was, okay, well, great. This is should have all lined up. The business is going well. Now we're going to have a baby, and it's all just going to work. Well, that's when the first stumbling blocks happened. I realized, working while pregnant was really, really hard. Like suddenly, my brain just escaped me. I was tired all the time. I didn't have the motivation or even the capacity to do creative writing. If I used to, help people with their marketing emails, just everything was tough. And then, figuring out I had all these plans for maternity leave, and then I found that none of that preparation work really got done just because I was so pregnant and so tired and, not really sure what was going to happen. And then, so it was in that time period that I actually had the idea for Nesting Your Business. So I really started out thinking I wanted to provide, maternity leave coaching support. And, so I went out, I thought I was going to take a month. I ended up taking about more like a 5-month phased back in return, where I kind of picked up some clients. It was like 5 hours here, 6 hours here, up until I was back to full-time around 6 months after Bennett was born. And I was still doing a lot of the consulting work I used to do. And it was at that time that I then started to just pay attention, to my own needs and my own struggles, as well as the working women around me. And that's how Nesting Your Business kind of has been born and evolved into what it is today.
I love that. I feel like so many parts of your story are just so relatable. And I think one thing I really did not anticipate is how hard it would be to work while I was pregnant. I mean, we talk a lot about, maternity leave and everything that comes after, but it changes long before the baby comes.
Right.
Yeah, that's
the part that's hard for other people to wrap their heads around, because you just look like, it seems like it's still just you, but they don't even understand what's going on mentally and physically.
Yeah, absolutely. And even, I mean, it's really something that until you've gone through it yourself, it's just so hard to really accept or just recognize as real. I don't know. Yeah. Okay. So in your business, I wanted to ask if you have any specific success stories that you're particularly proud of.
Sure. Yes. I think one of the biggest ones I have is actually when I looked at what our caregiving situation was going to look like, as well as kind of stepping into a leadership role. Because one of the things I've found is a lot of times my clients will come to me and they want to work on time management. And when they think about that, they just think about, I want to work faster, smarter, more efficient. It's still just going to be me, and I'm going to get all of this stuff done. And that's one of the first things I try to challenge these women to look at, is that it's probably not possible to get it all done. It's just not. But when you start to surround yourself with a team, when you start to step into a leadership role, both in your personal life for the household front and in your business, that's when it's suddenly you can breathe. You can say, oh, this can get done. But what we need to surround ourselves with the resources to make it happen. So I knew that right from the beginning. And one of the ideas I had was like, I certainly have, this business is not full-time. I'm not a full-time stay-at-home mom. I'm not a full-time, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week businesswoman. I'm blending that life every single day, every single minute. And so the support that I need actually needs to be blended too. So I actually had the idea that I wanted to hire a nanny to watch our son, but I also wanted that to be a blended role. So what I ended up doing was going to I'm out in Colorado near Boulder, so we went to the University of Colorado, and I went ahead to their job board where they had for postings for nanny positions, but I said this was a really unique opportunity, and I was looking for somebody in the business school or somebody that was interested in learning about small business. And so the role that I actually hired for was, all right, when Bennett's awake, you're doing your traditional kind of babysitting nanny type roles, but when he's sleeping, I'm actually going to have you interning in the business as well, because I really needed some part-time VA kind of support there. So we ended up finding somebody who was absolutely great, and it worked out really well on all fronts, because there was always work for her to do. If there was a sick day, if Bennett was sick or we were on vacation, I could still guarantee her hours because she could work from home and be working on the business. I got that first taste. It was actually the first VA role that I hired for, and I was able to figure out exactly what I needed and fill in that time. And at the same time, she actually got introduced to this entire world of industry of online business that she'd never known about. So when she graduated, she actually started her own VA practice rather than going and getting a traditional job. So that's probably my biggest win. I just loved that dual role, and it really worked very well while we had it.
That is so brilliant. And I think that's one of my favorite things about what you do is just finding a solution that works for you. I think that so much so in the past, there was very much this dichotomy of like, you're in a career, you're a mom, or, but now I just feel like there's so much more freedom. And I mean, I think a lot of it is just us being willing to like step outside of our box and be like, I'm going to figure out what works for me. Like, I have never heard of someone being like, I'm going to have a business nanny, but that's brilliant.
Right.
And I would have loved that as a college student. Like, that's amazing.
Absolutely.
That she got that experience, but also could nanny. And I mean, it's just awesome to see how finding a creative solution makes it better for everyone.
It's such a good point. I mean, I think, because I actually nannied all throughout college as well. And then every summer, I went with the same family, but every summer I took off from working with them so that I could go do an internship that I could put on my resume. Right. So it was absolutely like, this was the dual role that would have been great.
That's so awesome. I love that. So in working with the parents that you work with, do you find that they tend to face a lot of the same challenges every time, or is it a bit different every time?
Sure. I think it's a bit of both. I think the challenge around time and time management seems to be pretty universal. I think all of us are trying to get so much done. We live in a society that really values busyness and values accomplishment, values hustle. And a lot of us, before we became parents, we drank the Kool-Aid and we, did that. And the endorphins hit when you can check all the boxes and get everything done. And so I think there's a very common struggle in identity when you cross over into being a parent, where you still want to be that person and kind of feel that accomplishment. And at the same time, you really just want to sit and be enjoying the time with your kids and not be missing it. So trying to balance those two seems to be a pretty universal problem. I think, everyone just comes in and says, I have trouble with balance and I have trouble with time management. And one thing I always love to say is it's not about balance, because balance would be like an equal scale with like a little bit over here and a little bit over there at all times. I like to call it a blend, like we're constantly blending between the two and filling in the cracks here and there, whatever is needed. And certainly on the time management front, I think a lot of times everyone just wants to get really efficient. And a lot of the time management experts out there, they're all men. And they're operating out of the reality of men, which is a 24-hour cycle and showing up the same way every day and just go, go, go. And it's just not the reality for women, and certainly not the reality for moms. So that's something that we definitely work on a lot, which tends to be a little different. Same for everyone. But at the same time, everyone also has their own unique challenges. Sometimes people are coming to me and their business is just getting started, or they're pivoting to a new business. Others have a very established business and they're trying to figure out a way for it to run a little bit more sustainably, and so they can step back. Others want to step way more into their business. And, so everyone has different goals. But I think time and time again, no matter what the unique situation is, the framework or the way we can kind of solve that problem comes back to the same. It's really just looking across, surveying your landscape and saying, where am I feeling dissatisfied? And then we zoom in on that point and say, all right, well then what can we do about it? And that's, just as you said, it's like you start by being aware and saying, this isn't working for me. And then getting really creative and saying it doesn't just have to be this one solution, or this is the only way things can get done. There's so many different ways we can set up our business, put our teams together, design our schedule. So, lots of different levers that we can pull, like change our mental, mindset around it, whatever it is. so it's that getting creative, trying different things, seeing what works, seeing what didn't until you come to a solution. So that's probably the part that's really universal, no matter what your situation is.
Right. Awesome. That's really interesting. It's interesting to see how it is different for everyone, and it's a good point too that you talked about that people have different goals. So I think a lot of times when I read things is I feel like it's written to like a group of people with the same goal, whereas really the reality today is that, like you said, it's a blend. It's like we're not all in the same place. We don't all have the same goals, so that's really interesting.
Yeah, and not only do we not all have the same goals, but like, day to day, month to month, season to season, our goals might change, depending
definitely.
on where you are, where your kids are, and where your business is too.
Yeah, definitely. That's such a great point. Okay, so I want to ask a few questions, kind of more about you. So,
Sure.
as a blended mom, I'll say, what are some of the biggest challenges you're facing right now?
Sure. Well, I'd say right now, being 6 weeks out from giving birth, the challenges I'm facing is that there is so much actually happening in my business. And I feel like this is just the way of the universe. It's as soon as you're ready to slow down and you've got this other really big thing to focus on, that's when it says, okay, everything that you've been working towards is going to come to fruition right now. So, I've had, different clients and partnerships that I've been, cultivating for 6 months that all of a sudden are like, let's do it. Let's get to work right now. I had like 2 really big ones just come through. The pipeline of clients is full. It feels like a lot of the work that I've done to build up this business is really just coming in, which is wonderful. Like that is a huge, wonderful problem to have. And so I think right now my challenge is being very excited about that and wanting to focus on the business, talk about the blend. It's, I really, I suppose mentally, honestly, my whole being is actually really focused there. Well, very physically, being, 34 weeks pregnant, there is this other part that says, wait, no, you haven't set up the baby's room yet. Like you haven't done any of that traditional nesting things. And there's, right now, though, it ends up being, it's more my rational mind saying I should feel bad about those things, but really my whole self is interested in focusing on the business. So that's the challenge at the moment, is just kind of recognizing what's happening there and just saying it's okay. So I've just even this week, I've been trying to let myself say, you don't have to set, there's no one saying you have to set the baby's room up and you're a bad mother if you don't, that sort of thing. But I think, that is going on, and I was telling you, our 2.5-year-old just stopped napping. So it's just this perfect storm of mothering needs, future mothering needs, and business, and really wanting to be present right now in all three, and trying to figure out, like, sometimes the blend works great where one settles down and you can go somewhere else. Right now it feels like all three really want my attention. So that's what we're working through.
And I wanted to ask you about like some of the ways that so obviously you're helping other women and men, parents, figure out how they can make work for them. What are some of the ways that you've found that have helped you be able to balance those things? So I guess, of course, your business nanny, I'll call her, is a great example. But are there other things that might be helpful to people that you've done that have helped you?
Yes. I think, the business nanny side of things for sure has been a big one. My own sort of time management system that I like to use, I call it structured flexibility. And I think a lot of people have these, I've heard of these different suggestions, but one is to try not to over schedule and say, like, we're all very ambitious and, so positively focused that we think, like, we want all these things to get done. So they're all going to get done today or this week. And one thing I really try to say is, like, let's really get ruthless about being real about what can get done and how slow can this process go so that you feel accomplished in all areas of your life and you don't feel like there's no time. So it's doing a little bit less and also going ahead and not planning daily. Like I do like a weekly schedule. It's like, these are the things we're going to get done this week. And I am not evaluating every day. Right. fail or did I succeed at completing my test? Because what happens then is pretty much we're all really bad at it. We're going to overschedule. You're going to get to the end of every single day and say, I didn't do as much as I should have. I'm behind. This is never going to work. And then that's just a self-fulfilling prophecy, because then every single day you're already in a mindset of this didn't work. So you actually lack motivation to work well the next day. So it's really about that. If you say, be very realistic about what could get done in a week and say, here's a week. By the end of Friday, I'm going to evaluate and see what gets done. Because especially with parents, there's so many factors that are just not in your control. Yeah. So, a kid gets sick. Well, fine. Everything I was going to do on Tuesday, I've still got Wednesday, Thursday, Friday to get it done. And it really kind of gives you that space. It gives you a frame. So you're not just saying, well, I'll get it done someday. Yeah. And then there's no structure. And then someday turns into 5 years. Yeah. So you're still moving forward with progress, but you're giving yourself a space in the middle. And then I think the biggest one is being okay with not being in control. Because really, such a hard one. This is such a big one. Because honestly, we know humans we're not in control at all. But before you have kids, it's very easy to create an illusion of control. If you have kids, that illusion shatters. It's just not there. And
100%.
Yes. So it's just a matter of accepting that reality and being okay with living just really in this place. We realize I'm not actually in the driver's seat, and that's okay. And I'm going to enjoy each moment and kind of make it sacred. And even when things just are really hard, say that's okay. We're going to work through it. That I think is the biggest thing, because if your mindset is there, then you suddenly have the resilience to be able to tackle whatever's in front of you and right the ship. And it's not that you're really taking back control, but you're able to flow a little bit more easily.
I love that. Oh, that's great advice. Okay, well, before we end, is there anything about your experience or any advice, any closing thoughts you have?
Sure. Let's think about that. I think the biggest one is just to be really open, curious, and aware of everything that's going on around you, and having the belief that you really get to live the life and that you want to live and enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it. So whenever things are hard or feel out of control, just realizing that there is a solution. There is a very unique path for you. So just constantly checking in, seeing where things are going, and that, being open, curious. When you realize what's going on around you, then you have the data to kind of, make some changes and try some new things out, just to know that the blend of family life and work life that you want is absolutely out there for you. And enjoy what you're doing today, and then also be kind of okay to be reaching for the new reality that you're searching for.
Thank you so much, Meghan, for sharing your experiences as a mom and your dedication to finding creative solutions for parent business owners. You can find Meghan Dicklin at nestingyourbusiness.com. And thank you, audience, for listening. You can connect with me and find show notes at themomspectrum.com. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with a friend. Next week, join us to hear from Erica Komisar, mother, psychoanalyst, and author of Being There: Why Prioritizing Motherhood in the First 3 Years Matters.